Welcome to the podcast, where a passion meets purpose and limits are challenged. I'm your host, Eleonora. Let's start bending reality. Today, I want to talk about leadership, but probably not in the way you expect. Because I do not think leadership begins in the boardroom. I think leadership begins the moment you make a promise to yourself and keep it. 7 years ago, I decided I wanted to master a handstand. Not because I wanted to impress anyone, not because I wanted to become a handstand coach. I simply fell in love with the process. So I made one decision. Every day, 15 minutes, no matter what. And every single day, I showed up. Not perfectly, consistently. And looking back now, I realize something. The handstand wasn't what changed my life. The decision to become someone who keeps promises to herself did. That is leadership. Leadership is not about telling other people what to do. Leadership begins with leading yourself. Most people think fear disappears before confidence arrives. My experience has been the opposite. Confidence is the byproduct of repeatedly doing something that scares you. Every time you kick into a handstand, your brain is trying to answer one question. Am I safe? Your nervous system does not care that you are in a yoga studio. It doesn't care that there's a mat underneath you. It only knows one thing. Upside down feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar often feels dangerous. This is where neuroscience becomes fascinating. Our brains are prediction machines. They are constantly comparing the present moment with everything we have experienced before. If you have never balanced on your hands, your brain predicts uncertainty, and uncertainty often creates fear. But every repetition teaches your nervous system something new. I have done this before. I am safe. I can handle this. That isn't just how you learn handstands. That's how you learn to lead. Because every meaningful decision in life contains uncertainty. Starting a business, leaving a relationship, speaking on stage, hiring your first employer, launching a new project. None of those decisions come with certainty. Leadership is not waiting until fear disappears. Leadership is moving while your nervous system is still learning. One of my favorite questions is this: who are you becoming? Not what are you achieving? Who are you becoming in the process? Because achievements come and go. Identity stays. For years, I thought I was practicing handstands. Now I realize I was practicing consistency. I was practicing patience. I was practicing emotional regulation. I was practicing resilience. I was practicing beginning again. Every single practice became identity training. James Clear writes that every action is a vote for the person you wish to become. I love that idea because one handstand will not change your life. One meditation will not change your life. One workout will not change your life. But thousands of tiny votes eventually create an identity. One day, you stop saying, I want to become disciplined. Instead, you will say, I am someone who shows up. That changes everything. One thing I notice with almost every student is this. They are afraid of falling, which is completely understandable. But there is the interesting part. Most of the time, they are not actually afraid of falling. They are afraid of failing. They are afraid of looking silly. They are afraid of judgment. They are afraid they're too old, too weak, too late. The handstand simply exposes beliefs that were already there. Your body reveals what your mind has been rehearsing. If you are holding your breath upside down, Where else are you holding your breath in life? If you're rushing into the handstand, where else are you rushing? If you do not trust your body, where else don't you trust yourself? The body never lies. That's why movement is such an incredible teacher. It gives us immediate feedback. Sometimes the fastest way to improve is not to push harder. It is to go backwards, back to the wall, back to foundations, back to shoulder stability, back to learning. And isn't life exactly the same? Sometimes we think progress means adding more hours, more effort, more pressure. But real progress often comes from refining the basics. The beginner's mindset isn't something we leave behind. It's something we return to again and again. The best leaders I know are curious. They are willing to say, I don't know. Teach me. Let's experiment. That is the strength, not weakness. I recently taught handstands on a yoga teacher training. Some people arrived thinking, I don't do handstands. This isn't for me. I will probably skip this. By the end of the training, something beautiful had happened. They were not excited because they could hold a handstand. They were excited because they realized it was never about the handstand. They became calmer, more patient, more aware of their breath, more connected to their bodies. They realize that every challenge is an opportunity to learn something about themselves. And that, to me, is why I teach. Not to create better handstands, to help people discover a different version of themselves. One principle has guided me for many years. Change what you repeatedly do with your body, and your mind has no choice but to follow. Move differently, stand differently, breathe differently, train differently. Eventually, you think differently because the relationship also works in reverse. Your thoughts influence your physiology. Your physiology influences your thoughts. The body and the mind are constantly having a conversation. The question is, are you participating in that conversation consciously? So today, I'd like to leave you with one question. What is your handstand? Not literally. What is that one practice that asks you to become a little braver every day? Maybe it's writing, maybe it's having uncomfortable conversations, maybe it's building a business, maybe it's asking for help, maybe it's simply keeping one promise to yourself. Because here is what I have learned. The handstand is not the goal. The person you become while learning it is. If today's episode resonated with you and you have been thinking about starting your handstand journey or taking your practice to the next level, I would love to support you on your journey. I offer online coaching, in-person classes, workshops, and resources designed to help you build not just the handstand, but confidence, resilience, and trust in yourself. You can find me on Instagram at eleonora.gendelman for mindset, movement, and behind-the-scenes insights, and at elevert.method for handstand tips, tutorials, and coaching. Remember, the impossible isn't something you wait for. It's something you practice. One promise, one breath, one repetition at a time. Keep bending reality, not by waiting for life to change, but by becoming the person capable of creating a different one. If you found this episode valuable, please rate, review, and share with someone who would benefit as well. Thank you for choosing yourself, doing the work, and creating change. Keep living with purpose.